Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Okay. We have, I think, about over 70 students altogether. Boleh dengar tak?
Boleh.
Ya.
Boleh dong.
Boleh, Dokter.
Okay, sebab saya nak pakai headphone ini kadang-kadang tak selesa. Tapi kalau tak pakai, sometimes the audience cannot hear me. So let me try my other system. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Tak boleh ya?
Ya.
Boleh? Boleh juga.
Boleh.
Okay. Let me continue. Never mind. Let's continue the headset. Yeah, right? Okay. I think there are probably a few more to come in. I checked the attendance list just now. There are about 70 plus students in your class. All right. Some of you may not be able to register your attendance using QR code, and you may indicate your presence using either chats or you can email me. The other option, of course, is if somebody among you guys who can create our WhatsApp group, boleh ya?
Boleh, Prof.
Okay, somebody,
Boleh.
I'll give you my phone number later on, yeah. So that okay, let me put my number on chat so that you can contact me or basis we use the WhatsApp group later on. Yeah. Okay, I've just mentioned that we, or you rather, our group need to create a WhatsApp group so that we can communicate using the WhatsApp for example, if I need to inform you something about activities or other things related to the course. Okay, so once you have created, you let me know. Okay, Nicholas, are you all right?
Okay, bro. Fine.
Okay. All right. All right. So kalau semua dah selesai duduk, I don't know where you are actually. How many of you are on campus or have returned to the campus? Anybody? No, I guess not. I was told that some students have applied to return to the campus, and those are final year students, including you guys. Okay, one guy is on campus. Muhammad Shafiq, Amin, how are you doing, sir?
I am fine, Doctor.
Okay.
Prof.
Are you?
Sorry, Prof.
Yeah. Okay. Are you in the campus, meaning in the hostel?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
in College Bakau.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody else staying on campus? Oh, ada yang seberang campus, Franklin. Okay. That's all right. As long as you can, what do you call, follow the lecture online. Doesn't matter where you are. All right. Is there anything you want to tell me or you want to ask before we start the class? I guess not. I hope you have enjoyed your break for, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. All right. Okay, so well, I guess you're lucky in a way, or I'm lucky rather, that I'm able to meet with you guys. I was supposed to have retired, and I indeed have retired officially, but I'm on contract at the moment, yeah, on contract, and my contract has been renewed for another year until 2022. So that means that I will be able to see all of you through, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of you during the convocation. Hopefully there will be a convocation for all of you later on once the COVID-19 have subsided later on. All right. Apa khabar semua?
Sehat, Dokter.
All right.
Baik, Doktor. Baik, Prof.
Okay, apa yang kita akan buat nanti? I will try to mix, BM and English in the delivery of the lecture, content of the course. Hopefully that will help a bit lah. Yeah. So the course actually is about development. Yeah. Pembangunan. I'm quite sure you have heard of people talking about development, or you have written something, your assignment with regard to or related to development. But if you have read articles or book in the area of development, you probably have come across so many definitions of development, how people define, how people conceptualize development. So what we do in this course is really looking into development, particularly looking at the various approaches, various theories of development, yeah, teori-teori pembangunan, and also looking at some of the critics. Sebabnya apa? Sebabnya adalah tidak semua ataupun walaupun ada teori pembangunan, tidak semua teori tersebut bersesuaian or is appropriate for every country or every region in the world. Yeah. So there are certain theories, may be good, some may not be so good, but that's what we will be doing. Yeah, looking at some of these development theories and also approaches to development. So basically itu yang kita akan buatlah pada semester ini. And so I have actually uploaded. Hold on. Let me close this. Anybody else masih lagi nak register with QR code?
Yes, me, Doctor.
Masih lagi kah? Okay. Can you take it now? I give you 1 minute to do so.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay, hold on. That is, okay, ada lagi? Okay, I'll close this one. So the rest of you who are unable to register attendance using QR code, you may do so using chats ataupun you can email me lah, whatever means of communication. All right. So I'll take off this screen. Stop share. Okay. Let me share other stuff with you. All right. I have actually uploaded on Elite the course outline. Two versions actually. Ada dua versi. One, this one that I'm showing you now. Boleh nampak kan?
Boleh nampak, Doktor.
Okay.
Boleh.
This one is actually the older version of the course outline, which to me is much easier to look at and to understand compared to the other one with the new format and so on. It becomes too complicated. But basically the contents are the same. Ya, tak ada banyak perubahan. Cuma dari segi course plan-nya ada berubah ya. The course plan has changed to more or less accommodate the situation that we have right now, yeah, the COVID-19 and also the online delivery, right? So, but the content is the same. We will have to cover all those topics that are listed in this course outline within the time, within the semester, in other words, yeah. Okay, so as I said just now, we are really looking at the concept and also theories of development. And then we'll look at also some empirical issues ataupun evidence, yeah, as we go along, yeah, we're looking at these development issues. And of course, we will be exploring some of the policy implications of the different development models as we go along, yeah. In fact, next week we will start looking at the earliest theories of development, and then we'll go from there to look at the various theories. And most of these theories are actually based on economic theories of development. Okay, so we will look at some critics of these theories or approaches, and that will be the thing that we deal with. Yeah. So what we hope, or rather I hope for you to be able to achieve by the end of the semester is that you will be able to evaluate the merits, demerits of the different development theories, and also hopefully you should be able to construct a research project relating to the development issues. And that is one of the assignments actually. Yeah? The first assignment that you have later on, hopefully I can give you early, not today, maybe by next week, so that you can start with that first project. And by the way, before I forget also, We'll come to that later on, but since I'm talking about assessment here, this course doesn't have any exam. It's not exam-based course, yeah. It has been made that way. Then I'm not the coordinator, by the way. I'm just one of the facilitators yang mengajar khusus ini. The coordinator for the program is Associate Professor Dr. Pauline Bala. I'm quite sure you know her by now. Right? She's a person in the area of sociology, anthropology, and I'm not a person. I'm not in that exact discipline. Yeah, my discipline is more to development and planning and management. Right? But I've been tasked to teach this course, and you are the third cohort that I have taught. Yeah. The same course. Yeah. So I've been teaching this course three or four cohort. I can't remember. So I'm quite familiar with the subject matter already. Right?
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. So and also hopefully you will be able to demonstrate your ability, in understanding the various approaches of development program. So that's where it's related to my discipline. Yeah, talking about development. Okay. This learning hours, I think I just skipped that one. I think you're quite familiar. So what we have for the week, for every week, we have 4 hours of lecture, and then after that, it will be up to you lah. Yeah, I will give you some maybe some activities or assignment for you to do at home. Yeah. Okay. And these are some of the topics that we will be covering. The first one today, we're looking at the concept of development, and from the sociological perspective. I have already also uploaded my previous notes. We'll look at that as well later on. Yeah. Then and next week we'll be looking at some of the early development theories. Okay, including Adam Smith, the free market, Keynesian theory of economics, yeah, and so on. And that soon, on the third week, we will look at Karl Marx theories of development and his concept of actually socialism, but it's well known for communism ideology, by the way, yeah, Karl Marx. And after that, we'll be looking at some of his followers like Max Weber, who came after or rather follows the work of Karl Marx. Weber more or less, Karl Weber, by the way, his name. Karl Marx. Max Weber is his name, the second one. Is building upon or was building upon Karl Marx theory, right? So the neo-Marxism and structuralism, and also the theory of or some theories of underdevelopment. So what I'll do today actually is to look at some of those in brief, yeah, in passing, yeah, just to have to make you have some kind of feel of ada perasaan skill, yeah, of what we will be doing for the rest of the semester. Okay, and then we go on to social and cultural dimensions of development. All right, interesting, yeah, this one. And then of course we look at the global and globalization and the global approaches to development, the role of international agencies and so on, yeah. In development such as the World Bank, the IMF or International Monetary Fund, World Trade Organizations, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And then we go on to looking at the participation and development and ethno development. So that will probably cover up to the first half of the a semester. Okay. So looking at the issue of participation, why participation is critical in development process, and also the issue of ethno development. Ethno meaning from the word ethnic, right? And then we look at some of the roles of non-governmental organizations or NGOs in development as well. Yeah. Another approach to development is the human development approaches. That also we will be doing later on towards the second half of the semester. Then we will look at the issue of poverty and how it relates to development or development process rather. The role of women or gender in development also, we will be looking at that specifically. And how development affects the environment, right? The influence of development on the environment. And then we talk about the issue of sustainable development. Yeah? Okay, and then we will also look at some of the looking to development institutions, right? Where individuals and also communities playing their role in the global and local space, as well as the society, community, and how it relates to economic development, and so on. Yeah. Now, the last one here, rethinking development and digital age. Basically, talking about the current situation, the current age, yeah, where we have technology, we have digital technology, and so on, yeah, and how that have help or rather boleh membantu, ya, dari segi pembangunan. But this particular course has been proposed to be dropped. I'm not sure if that is, I have to check with the coordinator. But if it is not dropped and we still have time later on, I will continue to discuss that as well, because I think it's quite relevant, yeah. The like technology, yeah, the Internet of Things and so on and so forth. Now people are talking about that. Okay, right. So the assessment will be, as I said just now, there is no exam, midterm or final. We don't have that. What we have is just several assignments, yeah, 2 continuous assignments, and then plus the final assessment. The final assessment is actually comprised of, let me see, yeah, I have another version. This is the, okay, by the way, I'll talk about that later on, yeah. These are some of the lists of references that you can refer to. I know some of you who are outside the campus, you won't be able to get this unless you are getting what I call online copy of the books. But I will try to provide some of the readings later on, yeah, kalau perlu, yeah. Okay, so those are basically. So let me just explain on the assessment that I was talking about. Okay, this is the no, this is what I'm saying. I was saying just now it's become very complicated, but this is all the things that we need to do in terms of to indicate how much time required for the exam, required for the lecture, and how much or how many hours spent on physical, online, dan sebagainya, and student learning. But don't forget about that. That's not for you. It is for us lecturers, yeah, to deal with. Okay. So in terms of the continuous assessment, we have 2. Number 1 is the assignment 1. is the assignment on development issues. Okay. And then the assignment 2 later on will be assignment related to the development approaches ataupun theory lah, if you will, ya, approach to development. Assignment 3 will be on development theory and practice, and assignment 4 is there is another one, yeah. Assignment 4 actually is the latest that I got from the coordinator, is actually the oral, the presentation of the assignment 3. Assignment 3 consists of 2 parts. One is the written assignment, and the other is the presentation. We'll talk more about that later on. Yeah. And then the last one. Now this is not quite correct. Now there has been some changes as well. So, for example, the written assignment 3 will be 30%, right? And then the presentation can be in the form of video, can be in the form of other methods lah. Need not necessarily be oral, physical oral presentation. And assignment 5 actually is the self-reflection, yeah, your self-reflection and on sociology development of the course lah, more or less, which is 10%, not 20%. All right. So that will be the plan for the assessment. So so there is no exam for this course. Do you have any question? Am I clear on what we're supposed to be doing? Okay, ada soalan? Tak ada? Okay. Oh, this I have uploaded. Kalau perlu refer, you refer to this uploaded file, yeah, on Ellipse.
Sure, doctor. Thank you.
Okay. Let me close that. Sorry. I may have been talking without showing that one. Did you see the file that I showed you just now?
We saw the
No
whole
wonder.
version.
No wonder everybody was so quiet. Okay. Now that's a problem with this online thing. Okay. Let me show you again. Yeah. Whoops. I have closed that one. This is the one that I didn't show to you, right? The other one I think I showed. This is exactly the same thing as I told you earlier. Cuma bezanya adalah dia dalam format yang berlainan. This is a new format for the course plan in our system, right? So all the topics remains the same. Cuma dari segi assessmentnya ada perubahan tadi. Okay, I was telling you about assignment 3 and assignment 4. Assignment 3 and assignment 4 are related. One is for written and the other is for the presentation of the written assignment. This one is supposed to be for assignment 5, the self-reflection. Okay, so total points is 100. So 20 points or 20% for the first assignment and another 20% for the second assignment. Right, now talking about assignment, all of this except one is a group assignment. In other words, 4 daripada 5 assignment tersebut adalah assignment berkumpulan. Alright, group assignment. So in order for you to do that, I want you to form bentuk ke satu kumpulan. Each group consists of 5 person. Okay, let me close this one. Yeah, let me close this. Stop share. I'm not sure if you had seen that one just now. Never mind. Tapi boleh dengar saya kan?
Boleh, Prof.
Okay, so let me continue. Last thing I said was untuk membentukkan kumpulan ataupun grup ya. So setiap kumpulan is group 5 orang, 5% per group. I know it sounds difficult for group work, but it does seem like last semester when I tried, it works well. Students were able to work in group, even though you will not be able to, physically close to each other. You have been. I mean, at least my students that I know, they were doing well. Yeah, so they use Zoom, they use whatever lah, Webex and so on and so forth, to have meetings with each other. So I hope that is not a problem for you guys. No? Okay, so this is what I want for you to do. Each group 5 orang, and I want the group leader to submit the name of the group members to me so that I can enter all those names in the group dalam sistem elite kita. Okay, dalam sistem elite. Faham?
Okay, Prof.
Okay, ya. Alright, so 5 orang untuk satu kumpulan ya. Okay, so if you can send me those information by the end of the week, kalau boleh, latest lah, by Friday. Alright. Okay, so what else do I need to inform you? Okay, I've talked about the course outline, the course content. I've also talked to you about the grouping and also the formation of WhatsApp group. Okay, itu penting lah, WhatsApp group itu penting because that's where I will communicate with you, and every one of you should receive the same information or the same message through the WhatsApp group. Okay, all right. Any question before I proceed with the lecture proper? Ada. Lodrick ada sini ke? Lodrick.
Ada Prof, ada Prof.
Oke. Ini saya panggil dia Rick sebenarnya.
Iya Prof.
Okay, alright. Good to see you back on campus secara online. You are all final year student, right?
Yes.
Am I correct?
We are final year student.
Final year student, and you are currently doing your PTA.
Final. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Doctor.
All right. I wish you all the best. I hope all of you will finish this semester. Okay. But before you can finish, we have to finish our course. All right. So kita kena habiskan kursus kita and do well in this course. All right. Okay. So let me share my little bit of my notes yang telah saya buat ya. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So this is boleh nampak
Boleh.
Okay. So this is the first introductory. It's quite long, but I will try to make it as short as possible. Kita ada 4 jam. I don't think I can last for 4 hours. It's way too long. Sitting on the chair for 4 hours. We may have to take a break in between. Tapi kalau we will probably maybe spend about between 2 to 3 hours, and then we will call it a day lah, unless we have something to discuss after that. All right.
All right,
okay.
Doctor.
All right, but that doesn't mean that you won't have anything to do. I will give you some readings and so on for you to look at and also to read. Okay, so let me proceed. Yeah. All right. So the concept of development, and the first lecture is actually looking at the concept of development from the sociological perspective. Maksudnya dari perspektif sosiologi lah, right? So how different is that from the other perspective? Perspektif lain, contohnya perspektif ekonomi, perspektif politics, dan sebagainya. But for our class here, we are looking at development from the sociological perspective. Alright, apa yang dimaksudkan dengan let me bring you back to some first year courses you have taken. Sociology apa maksudnya? I think you know this already lah. Cuma kita nak recall balik. Okay, so sociology is the study of human society, right? Its origin, its functions, and the problems. So basically, sociology it focuses on the relationships, yeah, or relations among people, among groups, organizations, and different cultures, and so on. Yeah, it's also the study of social life, yeah, study of social change, which we can say social change can be part of development, yeah. And also the social causes and consequences of human behavior. Yeah. So, so in sociology, it explores as well as analyze issues, yeah, which are vital to our life, our communities, and our nation as well as the world. So the importance of sociology. Right, and let's try to understand people, the human society, the problems they face, the functions, within the society, and so on. Okay, right. So, as a field of discipline, sociology also asks many questions, yeah, about how human groups or groups of people and ideas interact with each other. This is very much what sociologists are doing, trying to understand people's interaction, yeah, with each other. Example is one aspect of sociology is, of course, the study of social institutions, yeah, institution ataupun institusi sosial, which are the major structures made up of groups of ideas or ideas of groups or ideas that influence people's daily lives, and also the views of the world, as well as the integration into society. So there's a lot to cover in sociology. Actually, it's much more complicated if you compare to engineering, for example. Engineering is quite straightforward, but when you deal with people, you can never know, yeah, what the reactions would be, or how people would react to you, and so on, so forth, yeah. Right. So what we do as a sociologist is to think like a sociologist, not to think like economist, not to think like well, I'm not asking you to not to think like economist. We should, yeah. Kalau boleh kita cuba fikirkan secara, I mean, maybe one time we may think like a economist, another time we may think like I don't know, like apa namanya, medical expert ke sebagainya. But as a social science student, we like to think like a sociologist, yeah. So thinking like a sociologist or thinking sociologically is a way thinking in a way that combines various aspects, yeah, various dimensions. One, we look at history. We look at history, how things has happened in the past, and how that history may influence the current situation or the future. At the same time, we also combine the cultural aspect, yeah, the structural, the institutional structure, and also some critical perspective as well. Yeah, when we do this, yeah, when we try to examine the relationship between ourselves and the societies, yeah, or different individuals in the society. Okay, so let's say if you meet somebody, okay, in Kuching kah, ataupun di tempat mana-mana lah, you try to, the moment you see that person, and you try to communicate with him or her. As a sociologist, we don't just look at the person as he is, yeah, in front of you, but rather we try to go beyond that, looking at the history, the culture of the person, and so on and so forth. Yeah, for example, if looking at apa nama orang putih kah, ya, ataupun Mak Saleh kah yang datang, I'm quite sure the history, the culture that he has gone through, or she has gone through, may be different from what we have. So we're trying to understand that through the various perspectives. Okay. Also, when you try to think like a sociologist, it is important that we remain neutral, yeah, unbiased, neutral, in looking at everyday society. Okay, so we try to be neutral. We don't take side. We have to be unbiased in when we look at society. Okay, as a true sociologist. Okay, tapi if you are dalam bidang politik, if you are politicians, it's difficult to be neutral. Betul tak? Right? Politicians, they look at things differently. Yeah, if you are from the opposition, for example, if you look at the same thing, A, for example, you may look at that A thing differently from those who are from the other side of the political divide. Jadi, so in other words, you're not being neutral. Okay, but being a sociologist, we have to be neutral. Yeah, so you can never approach life as if you know all the right answers. There are, we wouldn't be able to. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to understand everything. What we do is in our study, we try to study bit by bit, yeah? Knowing, pieces by pieces, yeah, bit by bits about something, and then probably. And then you can later on, when everybody who's doing the study from different perspective, you may have the whole answer to the problem, for example. All right. Another important concept. This is from a famous sociologist by the name of Mills, or Wright Mills. Okay, Charles Wright Mills is his name actually. He talks about the concept of sociological imagination. Oh, interesting concept. Pernah dengar kan ni? Have you ever heard of this concept of sociological imagination?
No, doctor.
Belum lagi, ya? Okay. Well, let me. I try to explain that briefly. Sociological imagination is just like dreaming, just like bermimpi lah. So he described, sociological imagination is how one should approach the world if he or she, wants to see and understand as a sociologist does. That doesn't explain anything at all. So what it means is he emphasized the importance of looking at things or seeing the connections between individuals and the everyday life. Okay, the individuals and the life that he has, as well as the greater social forces that constitute and course through society. In other words, if you see the individual person, you need to relate that how the individual life is, and also some of the forces that more or less influence, yeah, how he or he live their life and so on, yeah. So we try to understand, yeah, we try to understand how a contemporary life, satu kehidupan lah, yeah, and also the social structure within the historical context. Jadi, in other words, we have to look at, we try to understand the situations, one from the historical perspective, and also trying to relate it to the structure that exists in the society within which the individual lives, actually. Right? Okay, so he argued, meal ni tadi, meal ni orang putih lah, Pak Saleh ni. By the way, I think I showed you, that is his book actually, the one down here, which he wrote in 1959, The Sociological Imagination. Yeah. Okay. So he argued that doing so was an important part of coming to understand what we often perceive as the personal troubles or in fact public issues. Jadi itu kata dia, that's how we, in other words, we can understand the problems that a person face, or the problem of the public or public issues, ya, menurut Mill. But remember, Mills ini, you know, when he wrote the articles or rather the books, it was based very much on the situations in Western countries. So Mills described this sociological imagination ini tadi sebagai satu awareness, ya, as a awareness or vivid awareness of the relationship between one's personal experience as well as the wider society. Right? So that is the concept of sociological imagination. In other words, how you imagine yourself, more or less, yeah, how you're being aware of the relationship between your personal experience and the experience of the wider society. So in other words, what he's saying is that you don't exist alone. Ya, ini bukan macam kata di bawah tempurung, because there are people around you. Ya, the history, the culture, and so on and so forth, they exist around you. So you can't be alone. In other words, yeah. So you have to look at, in other words, you have to be aware of that relationship. Yeah, not just yourself, but also with the society. Yeah, within which you interact with. Yeah. Okay. So this kind of awareness promotes critical thinking. I'm quite sure you have heard of the word critical thinking. And and also the identification of sociological forces or forces that affect social phenomenon and situation. In other words, forces that cause certain, contohnya social problem, social issues, and so on. Yeah, jadi itu that's what Mills was talking about. Yeah, so sociological indignation promotes critical thinking. And also the ability to identify factors or sociological factors that affect social phenomenon. It could be problem, it could be issue, and so on. Yeah. Right. So sebenarnya menurut Mills ada 3 komponen, ya, 3 components that form the sociological imagination. The first one is history, ya. History here refers to how society came to be, ya, macam mana dia boleh sampai ke apa nama tempat ataupun keadaan sekarang, ya, history behind that. and how it is changing, how that has changed throughout the years, and how history is also being made. Yeah, so that is the first component, history. The second one is the biography. Biography here is the nature of the human nature ataupun the human themselves, yeah, in a society. So what kinds of people inhabit life, for example, in a particular society. Okay, so for example, in Africa we have different kind of people. In Asia we have different kind of people. In Europe, different kind of people. These are human nature, yeah, that exists in that society. Yeah, and they also have history. Yeah, each one of those group has different history. Yang ketiganya, the third component that form the sociological imitation is the what is known as the social structure. Okay, social structure ataupun struktur sosial lah. And this refers to how the various institutional orders, yeah, institutional orders ataupun law and order in a society operate, which ones are dominant, how they are being held together, and also how they might be changing, etc., etc. Right? So that's talking about the structure that exists. So structure must be there. Yeah. That that structure plays a very important role. Yeah. Anyway, to as much as history is important as well. Yeah. That ensure human nature and also development of the society as well. Right? Some are dominant, some are not. So a social institution consists of a group of people who come together for a common purpose. Jadi dalam satu, I mean, there are all kinds of social institution kan. Even at university level, we do have various social institutions in the kampong or in the rural villages. We also have various form of social institutions as well. And each of these social institutions serve its purpose, yeah, ada fungsi, yeah, that holds people together more or less, yeah, because they have a common purpose. Okay, so this institution basically part of the social order within the society that more or less govern the behavior and also the expectations of individual. Jadi tanpa ada institusi ini, it's difficult, yeah, to control the behavior and also expectations of individuals. Yeah. Okay. Right. So quickly, some of the importance of sociological imagination. Right. Having sociological imagination is critical, both for the individuals as well as the societies. So, yeah, it is important that people are able to relate the situations in which they live, yeah, to the local, national, as well as the global societal issues that affect them. Jadi seperti saya katakan tadi, through sociological imagination, you try to relate yourself, your behavior, your problem with what is happening around you, with what is happening locally, nationally, and globally. Right? So try to think outside the box. Yeah, thinking outside the box. In other words, looking at things from a wider perspective. Always question the status quo regularly. Yeah, you don't just accept things for granted, but if there's anything happen and so on, we try to question the status quo. Yeah, it is also non-conformal, and creative thinking. Right. So that's why it is important, yeah, to have sociological imagination. Okay. Now moving on to what we are supposed to be doing, yeah, ataupun the concept which is the important concept that we should look at today, the sociological perspective of development. So first of all, what do we mean by sociological perspective? The sociological perspective ataupun perspective sociology is an approach to understand human behavior by placing it within its broader social context. Itu yang maksudkan, ya. So you place placing it in or within its broader social context, lebih luas, ya, wider context. Mills in his book referred to the sociological perspective as the intersection, ya, ataupun pertemuan, ya, di antara the biography, which is the individual, and the history or the meeting point, ya, intersection or meeting point between the individual and the history. History here are social factors that may have influenced the individual. So what it means is that sociological perspective involve number one, recognizing, you recognize, and secondly, you evaluate, yeah, the effect of the social relationships and the social structures. Right? For example, the various structures involved during development and considering the present day in historical context, so as to know why something became what it is today. Jadi we try to understand, yeah, what happened in the past in history, and try to relate that to what is currently that we have now, yeah. Okay, so history is historical context very important as well, right? So it is a perspective more or less to foster critical thinking, and also a way for us to pose critical questions, and also to come up with solutions, or to pursue in the pursuit of solutions. So that's what sociological perspective is, right? Now, it is quite frequently employed when we attempt to apply certain set of ideas or themes, yeah, to some common problems or commonalities found in societies, yeah. The idea behind that is to extract some logical as well as some cohesive data, ya, maklumat penting. So we rely on some logic, rely on data ataupun maklumat penting, but unlike the common sense, yeah, common sense is something like it's not based on data, not based on maklumat rational, maklumat penting lah, not on rational data. So that's common sense, yeah, you just based on common sense. Jadi sociological perspective is not like common sense, in other words, yeah. So common sense which takes no regard to how commonality came to being, ya. Jadi common sense ini tidak ada kaitan langsung, ya, dengan apa yang berlaku, ya, or how something, common things came to being, right? So sociological perspective encourages us to use ideas, to use logic, yeah, to make decisions. Okay, So this led to the formulation of a theoretical perspective dalam sociology. Yeah? That's how theories came about. Yeah, based on logical logic, based on empirical data and so on. Yeah, and when you have made several observations and you come up with the same results, and then you come up with some kind of theoretical ideas or perspective, yeah, dalam sociology. And you can find the details of this in this. Let's see if I can click on this. Yeah, this is where. Let me. You can't see this, kan? Can you? Boleh? Tak boleh, ya? This is for your further reading later on. Let me upload this one. This is the one that I was talking about. Talking about understanding the sociological perspective. I think this is, even though the reading is quite short, but I think it helps you to understand, yeah, more on the concept of sociological perspective. Yeah? Right. This is the article by Dr. Nikki Lisa Cole, or the author pun Dr. Cole lah. Right. So you can read this later on, yeah, during your free time. But just some of the questions, yeah, that some of the sociological questions or sociologists seeks to answer. For example, yeah, why are people doing or what are people doing with each other here? Apa yang mereka buat sendiri? What are their relationship with each other? How are their relationship organized in institutions? What are the collective ideas that move men and institutions? We can even ask question, what's the history behind this and so on. Yeah? So ini adalah berdasarkan kepada based on the Wright Mills punya sociological imaginations. Yeah, so it talks about important historical context. It talks about the sociological perspective. All right. Okay, so very short one, but hopefully it can give you more ideas about what that sociological perspective is all about. Okay, yeah, let me go back to the slide again. Okay. Any comment or question so far? Okay. All right. This is more or less trying to recall what you have learned before. Right. How do you understand social life? I mean, this is what sociologists are trained in, right? To truly understand social life, we must move beyond common sense. Kita tak gunakan common sense, ya. We must use facts. We must use research, yeah, in order to find the truth. Okay. So we don't, or rather, we don't use common sense approach, yeah, and learn what is really going on through sociological research. That's what you're doing anyway in your PTA. Ya, kita buat untuk mencari maklumat, untuk mendapatkan maklumat yang sahih dan sebagainya, so that you can come up with some kind of conclusions, yeah, regarding certain social issues or social phenomena. Yeah. Okay, so sociologists use 8 basic steps when conducting research, and that's what you have been doing, or you are doing, or going to do for the remaining part of the semester at least. Yeah, you select a topic, which you have done. You define the problem, right? Define the research problem. In other words, review the literature on the issues, right? What has been done, how they define the concept, and so on. Yeah, previous findings, right? And you come out with some kind of hypothesis, or to try to formulate a hypothesis, and you then choose a research methods or the best approach to be able to collect the data, to get information, yeah, the research method. And then after that, once you have chosen the research method, and then you collect the data, yeah, analyze it, and you get the results. And importantly, of course, you share the results, yeah, share the findings of your study. Yeah, you publish it, you present it, yeah, in a seminar or conference or so on. Right? That's how sociologists try to understand social life. Yeah, right. So ini semua dah tahu kan? Tak payah saya nak expand. Right. So in order to gather data, again, this is something very basic. Yeah, sociologists or researchers dalam bidang sociology, you may use different kinds of data collection techniques, or you may use a combination of 2 or 3 or more. Yeah, but it is within the range ataupun the variation in terms of research design. One which is quite commonly used is survey. Yeah, using survey. Second is participant observation. Some may use case studies, and then some may not even go to the field to do primary data collection, but rather depend on secondary analysis. Yeah, in other words, there is existing data available, and so based on that data, you can do further analysis and come out with some kind of conclusions or solution to certain problems. Okay. Some may use even the document analysis, experiments. Experiment is the highest order actually in terms of data collection, but in social science we seldom use experiments. Yeah, it's mostly used in the science field and other unobtrusive measures. Jadi these are some of the examples of data collection technique dalam sociology. Okay, so itu tentang the concept of sociological perspective, the concept of sociological imaginations. Yeah. All right. So next is on the development itself. Apa yang dimaksudkan dengan pembangunan? What is development, or what does it mean? What do you understand by the word development? Apa itu pembangunan? Anybody? What comes to your mind when people talk about development? Are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just worried. Yeah, just worried that you may have disappeared. Yeah. All right, never mind. Let me go through this. Yeah, I'm quite sure you're thinking about what development is. All right, pembangunan, apa maksud pembangunan? Pembangunan atau development means different. It means different from different people has different definition of it. Yeah, so it means different thing to different people. For those who are in the urban areas, for example, when they talk about development, they'll be thinking about the high-rise building, the roads, the electricity, the internet connections, and so on and so forth, right? However, for those who are in the rural areas, they may look at development in a different perspective, right? They'll probably just be thinking about how to get clean water, right? How to get roads, right? How to have road untuk sampai ke kampung mereka sebagainya. Okay, so different things, yeah, depending on who and where you are. All right. So, but anyway, some of the earlier definition, yeah, um, it's mostly associated with economics, yeah, economic, yeah, ataupun some kind of transformation or social transformation. So it is the process of economic and as well as social transformation based on complex cultural and environmental factors as well as their interaction. Contoh ya, if you add improvement to passive lane, for example, yeah, we have a piece of land, but if you don't do anything to it, it remains just a piece of land. But you can develop that land by adding some improvement, yeah. For example, you provide drainage, you provide access roads, you provide utilities dan sebagainya. That helps to improve the parcel of land. That's a form of development to improve the condition ataupun the situation with regard to the land. Yeah. Okay. What other examples can you think of? Electricity, is it a form of development? I would think so. Yeah, sorry.
Transportation?
Yes, of course. Transportation. Okay, let's talk about transportation for a bit. Yeah. Anybody from Kapit or yeah, mainly Kapit, Ulubaram. How do people travel from the Ulu, the Longhouse to
Guna sampan.
Sampan? Okay.
4-wheel.
4-wheel drive ada? Are you sure?
I think so.
Okay. Well, yes. We're talking about if you look at history. Ya, jadi kita ni kalau sebagai sosiologis kita perlu melihat kepada sejarah. Alright. You talk about sampan. When was it used? Okay. You talk about 4-wheel drive. Bila ianya mula digunakan? Okay. What kind of transportation? River. Kalau in the past, it's mainly river transportation. And that's the reason, jadi kita perlu kaji. For example, why are houses or long houses built along riverbank?
Untuk elak banjir.
Okay.
Dengan attack musuh dulu.
Okay, that's probably one perspective. That's a good one. That's from the cultural perspective. The other one is the main reason why long houses are located near riverbank or close to riverbank adalah that's where the transportation is by river, right? By boat, by sampan. Okay, jadi bukan ada jalan raya masa dulu. So almost all communities ataupun long houses sebagainya all located along riverbank. Tak jauh lah. Kalau jauh pun mungkin jalan kaki dalam setengah jam. But normally just like a few minutes, yeah, to go from the river to the houses and so on. Okay, so there is history behind that, yeah, history behind it. But now we buat kajian ni. Now you see that houses are now located away from rivers. Why? Because they are roads. They don't need the river anymore for transportation, unlike in the past, right? So people are building houses near to roadside, jalan raya. Yeah. So that is changing, yeah, in terms of where people live now. Yeah. Kalau dulu dekat along rivers so on, but now there are a lot of communities are now located near to the roadside. Ya, banyak yang telah pindah ya, pindah ke kawasan-kawasan yang berdekatan dengan jalan raya. Yeah, so that's how it is. Yeah, jadi that's one example. Good. But you need to look at from historical point of view as well. Yeah. Any other example you can think of? What about in terms of agriculture? So ada pembangunan kan dari perspektif pertanian?
Maybe the technologies, technologies
Yang digunakan.
methods. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Prof.
sure, yeah. Kalau dulu gunakan secara tradisional. Now has been a lot of changes as well, ya. Kalau dulu everything was manual, traditional tools ya digunakan untuk pertanian, ya, guna cangkul, guna whatever lah, to do land preparation, cutting down trees and so on and so forth, open up new lanes. Right? Sekarang ni banyak perubahan. Satu perubahannya dari segi dari segi teknologi yang digunakan. Tell me what are the improvement in terms of technology? Bagi yang dari bandar lah. Sorry, bandar.
Mesin padi.
Okay. Alright, ya mesin padi. I mean mesin padi itu kalau nak lihat dari segi history of usage-nya, I think the first started in hold on, if I can remember, either in Kedah ataupun di Kuala, hold on, di Selangor. I can't remember which one started first. Tapi sebelum itu tidak pernah digunakan. Alright, so there has been change in technology. Combined harvester yang mereka gunakan, jenis what do you call this, pembajak, right? They have that machine also, so there has been improvement. Yang very one of the very important advancement in terms of agriculture sector adalah drainage and irrigation, right? Drainage and irrigation system. Sebab tanaman ini, especially paddy and so on and so forth, they need water. Yeah? Jadi kalau tak ada air, this plant will not be able to, or the crops will not be able to survive. Right? So the irrigation, drainage and irrigation system are one of the earliest technology. Keduanya, in terms of agriculture, the use of fertilizer, pesticide. Those are technology as well. Ya. Jadi telah ada perubahan. Jadi kalau dibandingkan dengan, masa-masa yang dulu, di mana there is no fertilizer usage, no pesticide usage. So everything depends on nature. Ya. Kadang-kadang nature bagus. Kalau nature tak bagus, tak ada harvest langsung. Ya. The crops are destroyed by pest. Ya. Macam-macam lah pest ni, tikus ke, serangga ke dan sebagainya kan. Right. So and the weather too, right, will influence the outcome of it or the success of the agriculture sector during the old days. But now you can control that with technology. So. Okay, what's the new thing that you have heard of in terms of agriculture sekarang ni? The use of drone. Tahu drone kan? Drone, selain daripada untuk digunakan untuk membuat penggambaran, you use that drone teknologi itu untuk membuat semburan, spraying, ataupun even spray fertilizer ataupun spray pesticide dan sebagainya in the paddy field or rice field. Yeah, that's the Internet of Things that people are talking about at the moment, or IoT. Yeah, in agriculture. Okay, so you can think of various examples. I'm quite sure you can think about this. Various examples of development and where the ultimate objective is to improve the economic as well as social transformation. Okay, Right. So the concept development embraces ideas of change. Jadi idenya adalah perubahan. And secondly, progress. Jadi two things. There is change, but not only just change, but change for the better. Ya, progress. Itu nama pembangunan. Ya. So it implies increasing wealth, ya, kekayaan, peningkatan dari segi pendapatan ataupun kekayaan, ataupun if we talk about country, that we talk about economic growth, yeah, or GDP, right? So development in the past has been equated with increase in GDP, gross domestic product. Okay, gross domestic product di sini adalah bermaksud all the goods which are produced, yeah, value of the good lah, or produced in a particular or by a particular country, regardless of who owns the company ataupun syarikat dan sebagainya, yeah, as long as the goods are produced within that. Tetapi kalau sesebuah negara itu mempunyai banyak pelabur asing contohnya, with a lot of foreign companies, maka keuntungan daripada production di dalam negara tersebut will go to the foreign investors lah. But they still the remaining tu will benefit the local people ataupun the local economy. Okay, so increasing wealth is an example of or the effect of development. Okay, in relation to societies, yeah, it also implies development also implies a process of change, yeah, to what is a more advanced state, yeah. So in other words, from satu keadaan yang kurang baik kepada satu keadaan yang lebih baik, advanced stage, ya, satu keadaan yang lebih maju, in other words, ya, to a more advanced state. Okay, so there is progress there. So when we talk about development theories, we are actually talking about or trying to understand how this process of development takes place. And many of these theories are talking about the process of development, right? Some of these theories are talking about the process of development, how development has taken place. Okay, we'll look at some of these theories later on. In fact, next week actually we'll be looking specifically at some of these development theories. Okay, so the next topic, what I will actually this topic is going to be discussed next week, but I just what I'll do today adalah I just look at some of this in passing, ya, secara ringkas saja. Some of the approaches to development, how people see development. Yeah. So the next few slides we'll talk about that. We'll look at that briefly, as I said, briefly. Yeah. Okay. So I put the LU1, 2, the second part of our lecture. But before that, I would like to take a short break. Yeah. Kita we take a short break, yeah, 5 minutes or so, then we will continue after that. Boleh ya?
Boleh, Dokter.
Okay.
Okay, Prof.
We'll take a break, ya.
Thank you so much, Dokter.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello, Doctor.
Okay, I have problem with my camera, but never mind. You don't have to see me as long as you can hear me. All right. So yeah, let me try. Never mind. Yes. Okay, let's continue with the second part of our lecture. Okay, where was it? Let me find. Okay, this is the one. Boleh dengar kah? Saya pakai different system sekarang.
Boleh, Doktor.
Boleh ya? I try
Boleh,
to
clear.
yeah.
And Doctor can
Boleh,
see
ya?
also, no problem.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so okay, development theories. Okay, going back to the definition of development, yeah. Development actually brings to us two what we call perspective. Number one, we can look at development as a state or condition. Yeah, for example, the state of being developed lah, more or less. Ya, sudah ada jalan raya, sudah ada electricity, and so on. Yeah, ada university, and that's the state of development. That's the most of the time we refer to that development as a state or condition. So in that case, it is being development is seen as being something that is static, yeah? Static, tak berubah. The other one is where we distinguish development as a process, ya, merupakan satu proses or course of change, and this is the one that is considered as or rather development is seen as dynamic, ya, sentiasa berubah. Okay, so one is a process, the other one is a state of being or conditions, right? So so the meaning of development, as I said earlier on, may mean different thing to different people. Yeah. According to Michael P. Todaro, and by the way, Michael P. Todaro adalah penulis buku Economic Development, which I use as my reference text for the course that I taught last semester, and I have been teaching that course for many years actually. A course called Development Economics, right? And that is for the planning student, yeah, planning management student. Okay, so according to Todaro, development is not purely an economic phenomenon. It's not just about economics. That's what he said, yeah. But rather it is a multi-dimensional process that involve reorganization and reorientation of the entire economic as well as the social system. It's not just about economics alone, but it also involves the social system as well. So social system di sini masuklah contohnya ada education, religion, health services, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so it's not just purely on income ataupun ekonomi saja. Okay, so development here is seen as a process of improving the quality of all human lives. So is the quality, the improvement and the quality of human lives rather than just the income alone or the GDP alone. Yeah. So three important aspects of human lives, quality of human lives are: number one is to raise the people's living level. Yeah, in other words, the living standard of the people need to be raised. Yeah, so one of the three objectives of development is to raise the living standard or levels. That is through increase in incomes as well as in terms of consumption as well. And there is one video actually that I watched on YouTube this morning by one of the famous author of book. Yeah, he talks about the difference between incomes and consumption. He was saying that if you measure just income and not on the consumption, it wouldn't be fair. Yeah, it will not be a good measure of development. That's what he said. So in other words, what he means is that if you just measure the country's GDP without looking into how individual households spend or consume goods and so on, then it will not be a very good indicator of development as a whole, right? So, so anyway, Todaro's believe that one of the goals should be to increase, yeah, to raise the living levels or living standard. Okay, so incomes and consumption increase, the levels of food quality as well, quantity also increase, the medical services also improve, education as well through relevant, through all the relevant growth processes. Itu pertama. Keduanya, the second objective of development according to Taro is to create condition, satu keadaan ya, kondusif ya, satu keadaan yang kondusif, good ya, to the of people's self-esteem, ya, people's self-esteem through the establishment of social, political, and economic systems, and also institution which promote human dignity and respect. Jadi yang penting juga selain daripada peningkatan pendapatan, the self-esteem of the people is also a very important consideration. Yeah, for example, one of the things about apa namanya self-esteem is to value oneself, yeah, to have the respect from other people and so on and so forth. The third important objective of development is to increase the people's freedom. People's freedom here is to choose. In other words, that people have choices. Yeah, people have choices. People have choices in terms of what job they want to do, in terms of goods that are available to them, as well as the services. So increasing people's freedom is the other goals. Yeah? Okay, anybody, are you asking question or what? I heard some noises in the background. Yes, Han, are you there? Is it Han?
Yes, Doctor. Yes.
Kita?
Yes, Doctor.
Is that Kita there?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you asking question or you just have your mic on?
No, Doctor. My mic is on.
Okay. If you just can mute your mic, it'll be okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, so let's look at some of the alternative interpretations of development. Yeah, we have seen from the economic perspective. Todaro's perspective was saying that it's just not economics alone, but also it include the other social component as well. Okay, so according to this article by Mabo Genji, right, or rather his note, yeah, that the first one is the alternative perspective. The first is looking at development as economic growth, and that's basically what people has been in the past have been looking at, lah. Yeah, they look at development just by looking at the GDP, yeah, or GNP or GDP. Do you know the difference between GDP and GNP, gross national product and gross domestic product? I've just mentioned about gross domestic product. Is gross domestic product the product or all income generated within a region or in a state, that, yeah, regardless of who owns the enterprise or who owns a company and so on, yeah, regardless of the ownership. Okay. GNP, on the other hand, is looking at the gross national product, which are owned or which belong to the people of the country. Okay, so if there are a lot, as I said just now, if there are a lot of foreign investors, yeah, foreign companies and so on that produce goods, therefore a lot of these profits earned will go to the foreign investors. So there will be less going to the people of the country or to the country itself. Yeah. So GNP here refers to those portion of the income or the products which belongs to the country, right? So GDP is the total production. GNP is the portion that belongs to the country. Jadi in cases, this is quite typical. If you look at the developing countries or the less developed countries, most of the investors are from foreign investors. In other words, why they are foreign investors in the first place? It is because these countries just do not have enough saving, do not have enough money that they can use for that they can invest, yeah, in economic activities and so on, yeah. So they have to attract, they have to allow foreign investors to come in to invest in the country, to set up industry dan sebagainya, so that they can produce goods. But the good thing about foreign investors is that they, while they invest in the country, they also provide employment to the local people of the country. Right? So itu satu daripada kebaikan ataupun benefits of having foreign investors in country. They can create employment for the local people. All right. So, okay. So you note that here that the persistence of dual economy. There is existence of dual economy where the export sector contains a small number of workers, but they use technology, but those technology as opposed to the traditional sector. Jadi terdapat dual system, one which is highly effective and highly efficient, and then the other one which is very traditional and also unproductive, right? That's dual economy, right? So so as long as we have this the traditional sector, there is this tendency for people to be of low productivity, and the use of low technology or inefficient technology. Okay, so we can see, for example, in the industries and so on, yeah, which use high tech technology, they can produce more goods, yeah, compared to the traditional sector. Right, that's the first one. Another alternative interpretations of development is where development is seen as a form of modernization. Yeah, as a form of modernization, or a process of modernizing modernization. Yeah, how to modernize a country or the state. So the emphasis here is on the process of social change required to produce economic advancement or economic development, and it examines changes in the social, psychological, as well as the political proses. Jadi ini merupakan satu proses modernisasi, ya, satu proses modernisasi. Also, through this in this interpretation, yeah, where development is seen as modernization, you should look at how to develop well-oriented behavior and values. How do we develop this behavior? Yeah, well-oriented behavior. Ya, untuk mendapat kekayaan, ya, untuk mendapat lebih banyak kekayaan, ya. And also not only behavior but also values, ya, in individuals. So the idea is for people to have profit seeking, ya, untuk mendapat keuntungan, rather than subsistence or self-sufficiency. Right? Subsistence and self-sufficiency are typical of the traditional what they call industry, yeah, traditional farming, for example, where the idea is just to produce enough for the needs of the family, needs of the individual, rather than making profit. Right? So also this is also seen as a shift from commodity to human approach, yeah? Not just from the commodity alone, how much goods is produced, but also to the human approach, yeah? Where it involves some kind of investment, ya, pelaburan, ya, dalam bidang pendidikan, in education, and also training, yeah, skill training. So you invest in human development. So, okay, itu secara ringkas. Nah, the other approach, alternative interpretation of development is where we look at development as a distributive justice, ya, itu untuk keadilan, lah, ya, bukan parti keadilan. This is viewing development sebagai satu cara untuk improving the basic needs, how to improve the basic needs of people. That is just something to do with distributive justice, yeah, so that everybody can have, yeah, can meet their basic needs, in other words, right? So the interest in social justice has raised three important issues. Number one is the nature of goods and services provided by the government. So in other words, the government plays a very important role to make sure that the goods and services are provided for, yeah, to the people in the country. Number two, another issue is the matter of access of these public goods to different social classes. In other words, because of the different, we can call it social classes, or groups of people in the country, some are high income, some are low income, some are poor, and so on. So some of these goods, some people have more access to these public goods than others. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it is a matter of justice, lah. Yeah. Matter of who gets access to the public goods. Yeah. So some people have more access, some people have less. Okay. So the third issue is the issue of how burden of development can be shared among these classes. So who actually among these classes of people or classes of people in the community or in the country has more um, burden, yeah, of development, yeah, whether it is being shared equally or some people work more but gain less and that kind of things, all right? So, for example, workers work long hours, but they are paid very little. So, and that is, it doesn't compensate in a way how much time they spend, yeah. So, but then again, when we talk about development, we have to think about what's the other thing is now that I remember watching a video this morning is talking about productivity. Productivity here means how much a person can produce in a day, in 1 hour, and so on and so forth. Jadi, in traditional societies, even though people spend so much hours working, but their production is very low, right? Compared to in modern societies where people, their production is very high, yeah, even though they don't spend that much hours working. And that is possible because of technology. So now people are talking about productivity. So if you are very, very productive, you can get paid more than your colleague who is not productive. And that's the basis for untuk asas untuk gaji lah ataupun penggajian. Right? If you're productive, they can pay more. And that is what is happening in developed countries. Why they get highly paid ataupun gaji yang lebih tinggi. For example, in Singapore, you get paid higher than in Malaysia. One of the reasons is because of the productivity, yeah, as a factor untuk untuk mendapat gaji yang lebih tinggi lah. Right, so burden of development, access to the public goods, and the nature of goods and services provided by government. These are issues as far as distributive justice is concerned, yeah, from viewed development viewed from this perspective. So the target groups here include small farmers, the landless, urban unemployed, and the unemployed. Jadi for the focus, yeah, or the target group for this distributive justice approach to development is to look into those people who are less fortunate, yeah, who have less access to the resources and so on. So how do we do it? How do we go about, yeah, helping this group of people? Yeah, so yeah, through this approach. Yeah. Okay, and then we look at Marxist view of development. So as I said, we will look more in details on this later on. Marxist is of course from Karl Marx. Yeah, Karl Marx, his view on development. So his followers ramai lah, followers Marxism ini ataupun Marxist followers ini. Yeah, their view of development is the emphasis adalah on the mode of production. Yeah, the emphasis of development according to this Marxist view is the mode of production. Yeah, these are the elements and activities necessary to produce and reproduce real material life. Yeah, so mode of production. For example, the factory which produce the goods and so on. Yeah, and then the what we call the input, or raw materials and so on. The workers, yeah, who work in the factory to produce the goods. These are the modes of production we're talking about. Compared to the capitalist, the capitalist ataupun the market economy, according to Marxist, their mode depends on wage labor. Yeah, So capitalists, according to Marx, they become rich, yeah, because they depend on the labor, right? So when the labor can produce more and they have surplus, yeah, in other words, they work more, they produce more than what they actually paid for, and that is the surplus, keuntungan lah, right? For example, what I'm saying is, for example, a person can produce so much good in terms of value, mungkin 100 ringgit per day, for example, yeah, but he's only paid $50 or 50 ringgit per day. Maknanya the surplus di sini is 50 ringgit. So that 50 ringgit becomes the profit, ya, keuntungan for the capitalist, ya, capitalist, orang yang ada duit lah, pelabur-pelabur dan sebagainya kan, the owner factory and so on, ya. So this surplus is accumulated and appropriated by the employer, ya. Jadi bukannya they don't give it to the employee, yeah. The employer atau the owner of the industry are the one who benefit from this labor tadi, yeah. And this, according to Marx, will cause a conflict in the capitalist society. He believed that because the laborers who has been working and produced the goods and will feel that they are being ditindas, yeah, that they have been used by the capitalists to enrich the capitalists instead of paying them more for what they're doing. Jadi according that's the main argument by Karl Marx lah, yang menyatakan that one day the laborers or the lower class will rise up and conflict with the capitalists. And when that happens, then there will be no more classes. Yeah, everybody will be equal, and that's what he was predicting, that one day societies in the world will be equal. Yeah, and that's what communism is all about. Yeah, nobody is above the other. Everybody is about equal. Okay, but he didn't live long enough. He didn't live long enough to see what he predicted. Yeah, with whether or not that happened or not. But actually, there's very little evidence to show that there was conflicts. Mungkin yang ada adalah di France yang berlaku French Revolution and all that, but it's actually not according to what he believed to be happening. Yeah? Anyway, we'll talk more about that later on. Okay, then of course we talk about the neo-colonial dependence model. Ini yang melihat kepada pembangunan ataupun pendekatan pembangunan. The neo-colonial dependence model ini is an outgrowth of the Marxist thinking by Dos Santos, yeah, where he said the existence of underdevelopment is due to the historical evolution of an unequal international capitalist system of rich and poor countries. So the relationship between the rich and the poor country. So the overdependence on the rich capitalist country, for example, yeah. So the existence of underdevelopment related or associated with the historical evolution of unequal international capitalist system and the rich of the rich poor country relationship. So there is a developed country, yeah, becomes a center, and the developing countries becoming the periphery, yeah. Jadi di tengah-tengah tu, the center is the developed countries become the center, and the other countries, less developed countries, are in the periphery ataupun di tepi lah, more or less. Yeah. So attempts according to this more or less approach, thinking rather. So attempts to become self-reliant among these less developed countries, self-reliant and become progressive, are suppressed by this relationship. Yeah, in other words, the relationship between the rich and the poor countries is more or less that causes the poor country to remain poor. Yeah. Because of that relationship. So the rich countries would like to maintain that system so that they will be able to more or less take advantage of the poor countries in a way. Yeah. Right. So also certain elites, yeah, certain group of people in the developing world, in developing countries or less developed countries, contohnya landlords, entrepreneurs, merchants, and so on. This group of people, elite people, enjoy high incomes, enjoy high social status, and also most probably also political power, and thus this will perpetuate ataupun menggalakkan lagi lah inequality and conformity and are rewarded. Jadi orang dalaman bukan saja negara yang kaya, tetapi orang certain elite groups in the country who happen to be richer than or have more power than the rest of people, they would like to maintain that kind of relationship, yeah, to make sure that there is inequality, yeah, within the country, so they can enjoy a better life compared to the others. Itu mengikut neo-colonial dependence model lah. So maksudnya over dependence on the developed nations, ya, for development or lack of, ya. Okay, so so these people, the elite group, they serve the international power groups, right, such as the multinational firms, assistance agencies, contohnya World Banks and other agents. Yeah, so that's what they're doing anyway, right? So sorry about that. So the idea of neo-colonial dependence model ini adalah if you need or rather if you were to improve the situation, then you must sever or cut the relationship between rich countries, poor countries, yeah, supaya poor countries will not be over dependent on the rich countries for assistance, for development and so on. Yeah, they need to be independent. That's what they are saying. Okay, that's in short. Then there is also the issue of sustainable development, another concept or another perspective on development as well. Yeah, I think you have gone through this. I think you know this very well, or have heard of this, have discussed this in your other classes and so on. Yeah, where people are now talking about sustainable development. I think you should also be familiar with what they call now is the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG. Yeah? So SDG is the one that we are trying to adhere to or to achieve at the moment. So any development projects in that the country pursue now must look at the issue of SDG, right? Or Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, but let's look at what is sustainable development. I think this is development, yeah, defined where development is defined is likely to achieve lasting satisfaction of human needs and also improvement of quality of life. Yeah, so it includes or encompasses number one, it must help for the very poorest. In other words, we don't want to have people who suffer who live without food, for example, right? So help for the poorest who are left with no option but to destroy the environment to survive. Jadi maksudnya, these poor people, for example, they have to survive. They have no other means, yeah. But people who have to cut down trees, clear lands, and so on, and destroy the environment. But that's how they survive, yeah. So how do we help these poor people? Yeah, how do we help them and ensure sustainability? Secondly, also the idea of self-reliant development. Yeah, self-reliant development. When we talk about talking about people to be self-reliant in what they're doing with their natural resources constrained. So natural resources mungkin limited, yeah. So within that constraint, how do people survive? Yeah, how do they develop? Yeah, without the help of others and so on. Yeah, and then the issue of also the effectiveness, yeah, cost-effective development, using the different economic criteria to the traditional, yeah, that is development should not degrade the environment. So you can have development, but at the same time do not degrade or destroy the environment. That's basically what sustainable development more or less believe in. Yeah? So the important issues of health control, appropriate technologies, food self-reliance, clean water, and shelter for all. Yeah? And people-centered activities are also necessary, where human beings are the resources in the concept of sustainable development. Okay, now let's look at this picture. What can you say about this? What does it tell you? Hello?
Hello, doctor.
Yeah, thank you for responding.
Welcome, doctor. He is trying to bring the things, something else, like he trying to survive himself. Maybe he is homeless.
Yeah.
He is poor.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all right, doctor.
Okay. That's probably everything he has that he carries on his back. There's so many things, yeah. Pictures tells, or rather tells a lot of things. Yeah?
Maybe
The
he
hardship
changed place,
of
doctor.
life.
Sorry, one by one.
Yeah, the hardship of life.
Yeah.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I just try.
Okay.
Yeah, because he feel like it's really hard to get a resource, a food resource, and he have to move on with his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all from me.
Okay. Is this life sustainable?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about human beings, eh? Their survival and so on, yeah. Hardship, yes. No infrastructure like roads and so on. So everything they have to carry on their back and so on. They have to move around. But the other question is, do they destroy the environment? perhaps not. We don't know. I mean, there's only so much we can interpret from this picture. If they cut down the trees and so on, and they continue to live in poverty, and that is the only means of survival, then from the environmentalist point of view, his destruction, his destruction to the environment is not good, unsustainable. But what is more important is whether he's able to live or not, whether he can provide for his family and so on. What alternative does he has? I think that's one of the stories, one of the little story that we can get from this. Perhaps he has no other choices. He has no education, perhaps. He has no, skills and so on and so forth. No other opportunities. No other choices and so on. So that's the life that he's having. Another picture. Sustainable. Well, perhaps we talk about environment. Yep, they cleared the land. They plant crops. They do everything. They carry the grass to feed the animals and so on. Compared to this one. This one looks familiar. I've probably seen some projects of this nature. And this is where there's some effort, to more or less to make sure that the forests are being controlled, replanted, and so on. There is a, sorry, go ahead.
Forests are preserved, Doctor?
Or perhaps a reforestation project somewhere. But you can see here, if you look closely, they're also planting something in between, right? Perhaps some vegetables and so on, alongside the trees and so on. So they're trying to protect the environment at the same time trying to earn a living, in this kind of environment. Right, far there, if you can see, ada sana group of people, women perhaps, looks like women, group of women who are doing the work or working in this project here. All right. So one thing you can say about this, the participation of women in the project, right? In project here, perhaps that is also also tells you that they are earning a living, definitely, participating in the development projects. Because one of the issues in terms of development is the participation of women in development, right? If we can increase the level of participation of women in development, I think that's what people do, that that development can be achieved much faster, in relation to that particular place. So in other words, they can contribute to family income, to the well-being of the family and so on. Okay. All right. So how much time do we have? So 4:30. We still have a lot of time. Anyway, Let me check. Okay, now we will talk about, as I said, we'll talk about the theories of development in more details later on. But just briefly now, look at in passing some of these theories. Yeah, one of the earliest theories of development is an economic theory called Keynesian growth theory, right? Um, based on the person by the name of Keynes, yeah, whereby this theory actually look at the process of capital formation as determined by the saving and investment. In other words, if you have enough saving, you can, and also enough investment, you can produce more goods and more product. Yeah, so you can increase your capital formation, increase your income lah in the country, right? So domestic savings, saving yang ada ataupun simpanan yang ada dalam negara, channel or used to produce investments such as manufacturing, which result in high productivity. Now, as I said, the problem with the least developed countries or the poor countries is that they just do not have any saving, yeah, or savings are too little, right? So they don't have enough saving to be reinvested or for investment, yeah, in manufacturing or in other economic activities, yeah. So because of that, many of these countries are forced to borrow because they want also to become developed as well. Yeah? They want to achieve development, but they don't have the savings that they can use for investment, so they have to borrow from other countries, from rich countries lah. The problem with that borrowing is that many of the money that they borrowed supposed to be for investment has been channeled somewhere else. Yeah, I'm talking about corruptions here, and that results in the money they borrowed they couldn't pay back, and that results in or ended up in crisis, yeah, crisis hutang ataupun debt crisis in many of these poor countries. So they can't pay back. Right, so that's another the problem with this using this Keynesian economic theory. Yeah. So growth is market driven as income levels rise, saving also rises, and free capital for alternative investment. Sounds good in terms of theory, but in terms of the actual actual results, actual happening, it works well among rich countries or developed countries, but among poor countries, as I said, this is not a good growth theory unless you can you can have savings lah. Maksudnya, if you can force people to save, if the country can save more, then it works. If not, then it doesn't. Right? Another group of theory is called modernization theory. Now, this theory suggests that economic dimensions alone is not enough. Yeah, economic growth alone is insufficient, and adds theories on institutional and social change. Jadi mereka mengatakan that is economic growth alone is not enough. And this theory or group of theories actually incorporates non-economic elements, ya, dalam teori tersebut, non-economic elements such as social practices, belief, values, customs, and so on and so forth. Yeah. For example, the Maclellan achieving society, yeah, theory. So it goes beyond economic alone. Yeah. So if you want to modernize, you have to also not only increase in income, but also improve in terms of your belief, your values, and your custom. We have to change as well, right? So diffusion and speed of change depends on the removal of various cultural and social barriers. So some of these cultural and social barriers need to be removed in order for the change to take place, right? Adalah, so some, I'm quite sure you know what some you can identify some of the cultural and social barriers to development. Ya, ada apa namanya budaya-budaya yang tak sesuai, ya, yang menghalang, ya, apa namanya usaha untuk membangun ataupun usaha pembangunan, ya. Belief system, for example, can be a form of barriers to development. Okay, so backward internal structures rather than external factors cause underdevelopment according to this modernization theory. Right, so ada yang previously some theories say that the external factors, the the neo-colonial theory tadi kan mengatakan bahwa the external factors, the reliance on foreign assistance, on capitalist, yeah, on rich countries, for example, cause underdevelopment. But this theory, modernization theory, ini I believe that it is the backward, internal structure, the structure which are rather backward in the country. That's the one that cause underdevelopment, yeah, both in terms of institutional structures as well, yeah. Ya, apa yang berlaku dalam negara itu sendiri yang menyebabkan kurangnya pembangunan, ya, itu yang dikatakan dalam one of these theories lah. Then we have the development theory. Then comes the neoliberal development theory, which came in quite later, evolved in the 1970s actually, and was designed to counteract the impact of Keynesianism, ya. Jadi dia trying to counter Keynesianism tadi, ya. So the new emphasis is on supply side factors, ya, in development. So private initiative and market-led growth, yeah, is the name of the game. In other words, yeah. So it must involve private sector involvement dalam pembangunan, yeah. So the more private sector involvement, the better it is, yeah. And also market-led, yeah, market-led growth. Yeah. So it moves away from demand stimulation ataupun interest rate manipulation, import substitutions, state intervention, and centralized planning. So it's moving away from that, yeah? Moving away from that issue of import substitutions, and moving away from too much of state intervention and too much of centralized planning. Right. So the gradual industrialization, according to this neoliberal development theory, will provide trickle-down effects, yeah? Trickle-down benefits to all social classes. So that's the good thing lah, according to this theory, ya. Sebab ada trickle-down effect ataupun trickle-down benefits, ya, kepada all the social classes, regardless of apa namanya, whether they are directly involved or not, ya. Jadi setiap kesannya akan kepada dari atas ke bawah lah, trickle down. Okay, then also we talk about, some people talk about popular development. Apa maksud popular development? What is popular? Popular is macam pop culture lah, ya. Tapi yang ini is talking about development which is considered popular, ya. Jadi so what it does is it avoids some of these grand theories, ya. Tidak mau memikirkan tentang Keynesian theories, tak mau memikirkan teori-teori yang besar, ya. It emphasizes on solutions, ya. Emphasize on solutions to problems, ya. Viewed in context of development, which is part of historical proses. Jadi ada kaitan dengan apa yang kita bincangkan awal tadi, yaitu on sociological perspective, ya, of development tadi, ya. We have to look at the historical process. Okay, so the context of development is constantly changing, so very dynamic, yeah, in scale as well as in terms of time, right? So it accommodates geographical as well as historical diversity, right? So in other words, it takes into account all those variations or the diversities in terms of history, diversities in terms of geographical locations, and so on. Okay, so the theory, unfortunately, has very little use to practitioners of development. All it does say is it must be something that is popular, but it doesn't mean that it is probably the best, yeah, approach to development. The only thing it is people like it, yeah? People like it. It takes into account people's history, people's perspective dan sebagainya. Okay, it stresses a local diversity, okay, human creativity, as well as process of social change through pragmatism, flexibility, and contact. Jadi ya lebih, in other words, it try to meet the needs of the people, yeah, meet the need of the people, right? Very flexible. So, in other words, this popular development, in other words, may differ from place to place, yeah, depending on the context, depending on the people, the culture, and so on. Okay. So not extent of state in intervention, but comparative advantages of public and private sectors and their complementarity. In other words, so very little state intervention, government intervention, but encourage both public as well as private sectors, yeah, to complement each other. In other words, yeah. So the public and private sectors complement each other in terms of development. So where the public sectors cannot provide, the private sectors come in, yeah. So they complement each other. In other words. Right. So the word popular, yeah. And then also issue of popular development and environment. This one recognize the high opportunity costs which are associated with the environmental degradation or environmental damage, yeah, which are often considered irreversible. In other words, once the environment is damaged, once the environment is destroyed, you can reverse it. In other words, yeah. So, popular development in environment ini, the dealing is with the environmental problems that requires solutions, requires strategies to solve the problem. In other words, yeah, requires solutions sensitive to the local social and ecological conditions. Right? So, in other words, the development must take into consideration and should be sensitive to the local culture, local situations, and other ecological conditions. Yeah. So society and nature relations are important, and they are affected by the variations in class, gender, and ethnicity. Jadi, going back to the issue we talked about earlier on, yeah, in society, if there are classes, for example, those who have those classes who have more access, yeah, than the others, probably have bigger share, benefits more from it, and also in terms of gender, yeah, whether it's male or men or women, and also in terms of ethnicity, some the ethnicity in their relations with nature and so on, yeah, you get all kinds of or can see all kinds of relationships between the society, yeah, and nature. Yeah. There is a term called reproduction squeeze. Ataupun I think it's called reproductive squeeze. Sometimes it's called reproductive squeeze or reproductive squeeze. Yeah, which forces peasants to intensify production in fragile environments. What it means is when, for example, if you have a family and the family is growing in terms of numbers and so on, so that actually can force the peasants to more or less increase more or to intensify production, ya, dalam keadaan environment yang sangat fragile, ya. So that is the one that is a danger actually to the environment. Yeah, overpopulation, for example, can intensify the problem. Yeah, so in other words, it may cause more or further environmental degradation as a result. Ataupun the way looking at it is that that the need to produce more, yeah, force a person um, to increase production, yeah, because of the needs, increasing needs and so on, and that will have an impact on the environment. So, okay, all right, and also looking at from the perspective, yeah, looking at from the space and also place, yeah, we'll talk about popular development. There is this approach called bottom-up approach, yeah, which encourage people to participate, yeah, in the development process as opposed to top-down. So bottom-up is where you get ideas, you get people to participate or to involve themselves in the development process, termasuk planning, termasuk implementation dan sebagainya, ya. And that helps. That way is people actually feel that they are important, yeah, to the development processes. How are various social groups, for example, or social classes affected by rural, urban, core, periphery, and other spatial interactions? Yeah? Some of these have to be considered, yeah, in terms of space, in terms of place. Yeah, how are they going to be affected? Yeah, in terms of development between rural and urban, who benefits more? Between the core or the center and the periphery, who are benefiting more, ya. Jadi ini isu-isu yang penting lah, ya. So one of the problems that many countries are facing now is the problem of rural-urban migration. The problem with that, to me, is it stems from the problem of not enough employment opportunities, lack of choices, or lack of economic activities that they can participate in the rural areas that has forced them to migrate, yeah, to earn their living in the urban areas and so on. Jadi ini penting karena when you plan for development, you have to consider both rural and urban, both core and the periphery, and the other special interactions as well. Yeah, and there was a growing importance of decentralization as well of decision making and authority from center to periphery. So who decides? Yeah, who decides on the policies on this, on what to do, what kind of development and so on. So centralization need not be good. Yeah, sometimes um, um, decentralization can work as well. Yeah? Jadi some of these issues are remaining issues, yeah, remain an issue and so on. Yeah, jadi I think more and more people are talking about decentralization as a way to increase effectiveness and also efficiency. So, okay, what about relationship between popular development and power? Power ini kuasa lah, kuasa yang ada pada seseorang ya. Contohnya soalannya sini, how does power structure affect development? Who has the power? Because people who have the power, they are the one who decides, yeah, on what kind of development, where development should take place, and for who, yeah, who benefits from it. That's what power is all about, yeah. And it examines the sources of empowerment, the sources of and also the inequality, and also issue of discrimination. Yeah, jadi people who have less power will have less opportunity, will most likely be discriminated against. Yeah, so there is a need to devise more people-centered approaches that stresses on empowerment and also on participation. Right, so empowerment is apa namanya, to give people power, yeah, to provide power for them to make decisions. Yeah, so empowerment as a form of participatory development seeks to engender self-help and self-reliance, while at the same time it also um, is a form of effective collective decision-making process. So empowerment is important, yeah. Empowerment. Okay. So what else do we have? Just a bit more, yeah. Some of the thinking, rather, why there is underdevelopment or causes of underdevelopment. Okay. First of all, it is very easy to focus on some of the characteristics of development. For example, we very well know that underdevelopment is usually characterized by low per capita incomes, yeah, underdevelopment, yeah, low level of literacy, low level of educational attainment, lacking in basic services or amenities, water, power, electricity. I'm talking about power here, talking about electricity and so on. Yeah. So, but how do we explain underdevelopment? So question, why underdevelopment? And we have seen early on also some theory trying to figure out why underdevelopment occurred, why certain countries remain poor and so on, yeah, or underdeveloped. Okay, some of the common theories are underdevelopment. For example, there is an old view that absence of development caused by certain physical environment. Maknanya the physical environment itself, yeah, can cause underdevelopment, ataupun particular cultural traditions or value system, yeah, that, for example, with regard to the environment, with regard to the cultural determinism, which can contribute to the lack of development or absence of development. In other words, some cultural values may oppose certain kind of development, right? For example, right? So lack of natural resources is also another common theories or reasons for underdevelopment. That's what people say. So some countries just do not have the resources, so they can develop. But how do you explain Japan? Japan is not very rich in natural resources, but it has been successful, right? It has, in fact, it is one of the most developed countries in the world. Yeah, other than the Western countries. Yeah? So Japan is among the top. I think still remain the top 5 countries in the most developed countries in the world. How do you explain that? Right? Even with the lack of natural resources. Okay, so why has Japan succeeded? Right. Some of the reasons. This is some of the reasons for Japanese success. Number one, they do have a very strong cooperative government, and they do have also strong business as well. That's one. Yeah. So at the same time, they're able to adapt to the special physical situation and acquire a maritime power. They are powerful in that maritime. In fact, those of you may know about the Japanese occupation and all that. That is part of it, yeah. But really, they do not have that much resources compared to many other developed countries, right? So what they don't have, they import, yeah. And also it has to do with the what they have, yeah, in their development approach in Japan, yeah. In the early development or during the Meiji, what they call the Meiji restoration, they have the early development of transport and banking system. That those are required actually for development. Yeah, one of the things that that you need in a country, at least for economic development, is you must have a good banking system. You must have a good transportation system. Yeah, roads, railways, airplanes, ports, airport, and so on and so forth, including the banking system as well. Yeah. And another important factor which helps to explain the success of Japan is that the population are highly literate. Yeah, the level of education, yeah, um, is very high, yeah, in terms of rate of literacy in Japan. Yeah, so if you look at any country in the world, actually any country in the world, uh, developed countries, they have this high literacy rate, yeah, among its population. One of the requirements, yeah. Okay. Another important development factor for Japan is also they are technology driven development, yeah, technology driven. Their development are based on technology, right? So they, what they do is actually they don't, for example, they don't necessarily develop the original technology, but they improve on it. For example, US developed technology, and then they import the technology, and then they improve on it and make it better, yeah, than the original technology. That's what the Japanese are very good at. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I'm coming towards the end. Other common explanation of underdevelopment, satu lagi instability, yeah, in terms of the country, in terms of government, yeah, and other adverse internal situation, political factors, political instability. Also, there's some truth to it, some truth to this. For example, in Central African nations, where there are a lot of rivalries and also ethnic conflict, even to the extent of ethnic cleansing, yeah, happening in that country. Yeah. Poor physical environment. This is quite true in Africa, for example. Lack of rainfall, poor soils may also pose barriers to development. And what happened in many of these poor countries in Africa, they just could not plant the crops. They planted, and then suddenly you have months of dry season, so the crop just fell. So there is no harvest, right? So there's no supply of food down there. And yeah, because of lack of rainfall, for example. Right? So Gunnar Myrdal, sorry, I think I pronounced it right, Madal, talks about vicious cycles. When they talk about cycle of poverty, lah. He talks about the complex web of interlocking vicious cycles, of which constitute a change of cause and effect relationships, yeah, where one unfavorable circumstance leads to another and produces downward spiral. So in other words, one factor, one circumstances lead to another and continues downward. Ya, contohnya apa yang dikatakan oleh Gunnar Myrdal adalah in many of these poor countries there is a very high birth rate. When there is high birth rate, maka rate of population growth will increase. So that will lead to large families, right? So large families lead to low PCI. PCI here means per capita income. Yeah. So in other words, in a large family where there is limited income, maka the per capita untuk seorang ya, income untuk seorang semakin rendah. Yeah. And that leads to poverty. And poverty will lead to result in low output per worker. Okay, that's the first thing. And then also low per capita income will also, of course, low output adalah low productivity can lead to poor health, all right? And that also lead to inadequate housing as well, yeah? Okay, so according to Myrdal, one of the solutions or remedy is to the downward spiral is something which is not reversible, and therefore there is a need for massive aid. Satu bantuan, ya, bantuan yang besar perlu ada, ya, massive aid itu bantuan perlu diadakan untuk membantu ataupun untuk memutuskan that cycle tadi, ya. So that, for example, if you provide aid in terms of first of all, if you want to do something, you must look at the birth rate. How do you reduce birth rate? You need to, of course, lower the birth rate lah. So use of birth control is needed. But birth control technology is not cheap. Yeah, sometimes these poor countries just couldn't afford it. So what can be done is to provide means ataupun satu usaha untuk membantu, ya, so that people can have access to birth control, yeah, so that the birth rate will be lower. That will lead to smaller families. Small families will have higher per capita income. That will help to alleviate poverty, and that will lead to higher productivity, better health, and better housing. Ya, so jadi ini argument oleh Gunnar Myrdal lah yang mengatakan there is something that needs to be done, ya, to stop that downward spiral, ya, that downward vicious cycle tadi. Okay, so the remedy for vicious cycle, aid would stimulate growth in modern sector and reduce the size of informal or traditional society, other than what I've just mentioned in terms of the birth rate tadi lah. So you can provide satu bantuan untuk stimulate the economic growth, yeah, and reduce the size of traditional sector. So this, according to him, can eliminate the dualism and the major causes of unequal distribution of wealth, right? So foreign aid would allow countries to increase level of productivity, right? How do you increase that? Well, with education, with skills, with technology, so we can provide training and so on. Yeah, invest in education, invest in training programs, invest in technology that help to increase the levels of productivity. Okay. What other common explanation? Ada yang mengatakan bahawa it is, I mean, being poor ataupun underdevelopment is a result of colonialism. So colonialism tu become a scapegoat, ya, yang menyebabkan ataupun dikatakan penyebab kepada kurangnya pembangunan. Okay, the attacking versus cycle proponents, they do not explain how this magic circle come into existence. Yeah. So there is a need to view development in a historical perspective as sequence of dynamic events explore. So in other words, we need to find out what are the roots of the problem. Actually, yeah, look into history. Colonialism is often viewed as the cause of disintegration and also decline as well. So one of the problem with colonialism adalah they come, they extract resources, ya, ambil sumber-sumber yang ada resources. So by the time they leave the country, the resources has been taken or become less and less depleted and so on and so forth. So very little is left, ya, untuk negara yang kenaan, ya. So so colonialism as a scapegoat, I'm just getting this from another lecture, ya. As a result of colonialism, sebagai sebagai satu sebab, ya, to blame for the underdevelopment, ya, blaming colonialism sebagai sebab kurang pembangunan. Ada yang mengatakan bahawa indigenous population was exploited by the colonies group, ya, and then also secondly, traditional way of life and self-sufficient mode of production also have been destroyed during the time of colonialism. Ketiganya, people were forced to pay taxes, yeah, and conscripted labor practices which were forced upon by the colonial masters and so on, yeah, and also social differentiation increase as well. In other words, there are a lot of differences in societies, yeah. Some rich, very many also poor, and so on, yeah, middle class. So this has resulted in some kind of disintegrating force within the society. Also, there's some what they call the fatal effects on secondary manufacturing and also service tertiary sectors, where the import of cheap goods force indigenous artisans out of work. In other words, because of these goods which are imported from the developed countries, which were formerly the colonial powers, and therefore those local entrepreneurs, for example, may result in out of work, network bankrupt lah dan sebagainya, because they cannot produce goods competitive enough to those goods which are imported. Okay, apa lagi? Associated colonialism discourage modern industrialization. Maybe some truth, maybe, but well, you have to analyze this country by countries, for example. But if you look into the context, actually, one of the things about colonialism is one of the goals of colonialism is to extract the resources from the country and bring it back to the country of origin, the colonial power study, process it there, and then sell it overseas, including those countries which they have colonized before. Ya, jadi itu masalahnya. So they don't have any actually real intention to modernize the country which they colonize. Itu argument orang lah. Okay, to put the blame on colonialism. Right. So that's what occurred in those situations, what dependent, yeah, rather than autonomous development. Yes, continue dependent on the developed country, on the colonial powers. So colonial powers extract wealth from home country for the home countries. In other words, they extract the wealth and the resources for the home country. Contoh-contoh negara tersebut, Holland ataupun Netherlands, France, Great Britain ataupun England dan sebagainya. Ya. So international division of labor, for example, and Western dominated trading structure, all were created to take advantage of colonial authority. Jadi untuk mengambil peluang lah. So international division of labor ni is, for example, refers to allocation of tasks among laborers such that each and one engages in tasks that he performs most efficiently, and this promotes worker specialization and productivity. Right. Okay. So what to do with development theory? Okay, we have seen several theories. I mean, in passing lah. Several theories that have advanced, have been criticized or have been critical. Have been criticized as well as discredited, and only to be replaced by the theory. Jadi teori-teori yang awal dulu mungkin as time goes by, were thought to be not relevant or less effective in explaining the development that has been taking, the lack of development that has taken place. Yeah, so new theories came about. Yeah, I have seen earlier on. So the third world is very heterogeneous. We can't say that all the third world are the same. So much variation, so much differences between the third world countries. Now, when I talk about third world countries, I'm talking about the developing countries. Sorry, the less developed countries. So they have this similarity in terms of population. Some are big population, others small. And also definitely in terms of resources, some have a lot of resources, some don't have resources. Yeah? In terms of climates too, different kind of climates. Some, for example, in the Central Africa, very dry, no rain, so on and so forth. Yeah? Definitely in terms of cultures also, economic structure, and so on and so forth. So a lot of variation, heterogeneity, among these countries. Okay, so unlike that one theory, I'm sorry, unlikely. So there is no one theory actually that actually can explain, can explain underdevelopment everywhere. So in other words, underdevelopment or lack of development in one country may be caused by different factors, compared to another country. That's what it's saying, So we can't explain. You cannot explain by just one theory alone to explain why there is lack of development everywhere. So different countries have different, different conditions, different cultures, different resources, different economic structure and whatnot. Okay, so no single theory can explain, for underdevelopment in all countries. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so underdevelopment must be seen as a product of a complex and continuous changing interactions between the past and the present. What happened in the past, what happened now. It also look at the nature and the human environments, as well as the external and internal conditions within the country. So there are multitudes of obstacles as well, macam-macam obstacle ataupun masalah to development, which vary from place with place and time. It's critical to remember that the above theoretical ideas help us, aid us in asking some pertinent questions. All right, sorry about that. So that's let me just go to the last slide. So that's basically apa yang boleh kita that we can say about some of these theories. Yeah. Jadi what we will look at next week onward will be some details of this theory and see. I mean, I've gone through some of this in passing, and also some of the what I call critics of some of these theories. But we will look closely later on in a more detailed manner. Yeah, from next week. Okay, so that's all from me for today. Any question? Are you still with me?
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
doctor. Yes, doctor.
Thank you very much for
Welcome,
listening.
doctor.
Yeah,
We
I
still
know.
listening to you.
Yes, I know it's very long lecture. But just to set up, yeah, just to set up what we will do for the rest of the semester. Yeah, and give you some ideas about that. Okay, any question, comments?
No, doctor.
So far, no, doctor.
All right, okay, it's already 5 minutes past 5. We're supposed to end at 6, but I will not go until 6 o'clock. Unless you have any question, we will stop here for today. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
All right, doctor. Thank
Okay,
you.
doctor.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I'll see you
Thank you so
again
much,
next week
doctor.
then. Yeah,
Okay, doctor. Thank you so
thank you.
much for your lecture.
Okay, thank you,
By the
doctor.
way, sorry. By the way, one last thing. I have also what do you call, uploaded or what? A video, more or less YouTube lah, on Elip, also talking about in 10
What?
minutes or so on about development. I think it's very useful, so you can watch that on your own time. Yeah.
Okay, doctor.
Yeah. All
All right,
right.
doctor. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. It's very. I find it very interesting and also helpful to understand the concept of development as viewed throughout the world, more or less. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. I'll see you again next week.
Okay, Prof.
Okay.
Okay, Prof.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Prof.
Bye. See you next week.